Well, for more on this, Chad Slater is the Co-Chief Investment Manager at Morphic Asset Management, and he joins me live from our Sydney CBD studio. Chad, thanks very much for joining us. Now, you've just returned from travelling in Europe and around Australia, and you've been to an environment, social and governance conference. What were some of the main themes that really came out of this? Because this does appear, or does it appear to you, that it is moving out of the niche into mainstream?
Yes, look, thanks, Helen. I think absolutely it's going from something that was considered a small part of investing, and it's on the verge, I think, or we think as a firm, of going very mainstream. And why do I say that? Like, one thing that came out of the conference is there was allocators there from large, say, Finnish pension funds through to Belgian private banks, through to Parisian public banks, and they're all there for the same reason. 79% of them said client demand was why they were there. That their clients want them to offer a form, not all product has to be this, but a form of ESG, as you said, environmental, social and governance product that caters to their needs or their children's needs.
It's quite extraordinary. Now, I mean, we know that electric cars are used in Europe and they are greatly talked about. Did they come up as a big topic of discussion? And what exactly about them is interesting these fund managers, these asset managers?
So one of the presentations given, so it was a holistic presentation, so it talked about everything from carbon, environment, governance, but also importantly some of the solutions. So focusing, as you say, on the environment, one of the panelists there, or one of the discussion topics was, what are some of the more interesting solutions to some of the problems you're seeing? And the presentation was on free cars for all, essentially, which is, if you get your iPhone for free, is it that difficult to consider you might get your car for free as well?
But just a minute, you don't get your iPhone for free. You've got to sign up to a plan.
That's right. It's free in inverted commas. It's free in the sense you don't pay for anything up front. And likewise, in a similar manner, your car wouldn't be free. You'd be signing up for a plan where you agreed to have your car sits idle for 90% of the time. Most people use their cars to drive from home to the office, and then gets parked in a garage or in a car park, and it sits there for the whole day.
This is an electric car?
Yes, it has to be an electric car.
Yes, so go on.
So one of the ideas put forward was, we know that South Australia has a battery problem, or had a renewables/battery problem, which is you have a large amount of renewables energy, but you can't control when it comes into the grid. So they've put forward the Tesla Powerwall solution, but this company was putting forward another solution, which is you leave your electric car charging overnight. So you take the wind power, or if it's first thing, or say you're a night shift worker, it's the other way around, you take the solar power. Then you drive it to work and you plug it in, and the energy company has the right to take the power out of the batteries when they need it, leaving, of course, a set amount for you to get home. And the amount that you want to give up will determine how much you pay for your car.
Wow, so it can help the wider grid at the peak times.
Yeah, their point was, if every car went electric, that is a huge amount of battery power sitting idle for 90% of the time that can actually be plugged back into the grid and used.
Yeah, look, it's a fascinating idea whether it would come to fruition. Is anyone doing it in Europe that they talked about?
Well, that was a surprising thing. I thought this was just another one of these interesting ideas that may or may not happen. Nissan has actually partnered with a grid provider in Europe, and they're rolling out a trial program. It began last month. Yeah. So this is not a 5-year away story. This is a 1-month-old story.
Yeah, all right.
So at this stage, they're only offering rebates up to £3,000. So it's not completely a free car yet. But the point being, as more people sign up and they can get to critical mass, and perhaps you can also offer it to a larger variety of people, that you could actually get down to the point where your car is literally free at that point.
Yeah, all right. Now, there would have been talk about, different ways to finance, and we've heard about green bonds.
Yep.
Is this really taking some shape?
Yes, this is one of the more interesting topics discussed. As you alluded to, Helen, green bonds, they only really began post-Paris, so less than 18 months, 24 months ago. But there's already been a big, heavy issuance, and I think it was over $100 billion worth of bonds have now been issued in this form. And these are bonds where they have to go towards either climate change or emission reduction, etc. And in quite a few countries, they get a concessional tax treatment as well. And you can tell your clients that this is what you're allocating to. What has been surprising is the speed of take-up here. Like, considering this project didn't exist 3 years ago, it's been quite incredible how quickly this has gone mainstream. So they were talking about how some of the more polluting companies, say in China, are using green bonds to sub out from from heavily polluting ways to less polluting ways. So it's quite an interesting area. Like us as a firm, as you know, Helen, focus on equities, but it was interesting to hear the debt holders' perspective.
Yeah, all right. Look, it's such an interesting area. Chad, I just want to ask you about some breaking news. You may or may not have sort of kept up with it, but this news that the Alabama Democrat, Doug Jones, has won that Senate race there, but it has sort of narrowed the Republican majority and futures, are heading south. How do you see this briefly?
Nothing like putting me on the spot, Helen. I didn't even know that.
Sorry. Oh, you didn't know. Okay. But it is interesting. I guess that means there is some doubt about whether President Trump's tax plan can get through.
Look, at the margin, this last month or so, our US markets in particular have gone up. And they have been led by, if you do a decomposition of US markets, you can see the tax beneficiaries, which are some banks, some onshore companies have done best. But if we take a step back, Helen, and look at what's happening globally, and Merrill Lynch had a piece out yesterday, global earnings and global EPS are being revised up strongly over the last 4 to 5 months. And this is because global GDP is growing at the best rate it has in the better part of 5 years. So look, at the margin, it may make a difference, but I think it's important to differentiate between the edges of Trump's tax versus the strong underlying currents, which are global stocks, global economies are the best we've seen in 5 years.
Yeah. All right, Chad Slater from Morphic Asset Management, thanks for joining us. Great to talk to you.
Thanks, Helen.